Morning. It's Sunday. I got up at...
Phone is disconnected. Pairing.
My phone is disconnected. Morning. The mission for today is to get a little bit more in depth with the V10 versus the Model 1. Lots of people are wondering, what are the pros and cons of each mixer? I'm not going to blast you with all the things you can get on the internet, but we'll go over a quick review, and then we're going to go to the workbench, and we're going to actually just listen side by side, same song, each mixer. We'll go through some of the big differences in my opinion. Yes, there's a completely different philosophy. So the V10 is digital. Per channel, you have a digital compressor, which is great, especially if you're playing your own production pieces alongside other, polished music. Gives it a little extra oomph. It's maybe in the vein, not quite as good, but maybe in the vein of what's on the MX1 mixer from the Roland Era series. You can plug a bunch of your own sources into it, push the master magic button, and instantly everything just sounds full of life. And maybe it's kind of cut and paste for electronic synthy people, but it works for me. I like electronic synthy music, so what the hell. So yeah, V10 digital compressor per channel. Model 1 has a drive knob per channel. Not the same thing. They both seem to raise the perceived volume of what you're working with. However, the analog drive is a distortion circuit, so it adds harmonics, like harmonic distortion, saturation, that kind of thing. I'm not exactly sure if I just mixed up a bunch of different types of things all in one, but to me it's more of a saturator drive knob. They both sound great. They do different things. The Model 1 is by far the most pleasing sounding mixer I think I've ever played on. I put anything into it and I can just like warm it up with that knob per channel. It's really amazing. On the flip side, it's pure analog, no digital, which does mean that it's awesome. So the all analog versus all digital, it matters. When I'm jamming my Ableton projects, it's really convenient to run a USB cable to the V10, and I can select from any one of the 6 or all 6 channels to send audio from Ableton. So I do stem projects a lot on the V10. Additionally, if I if you were DJing with Ableton, which I've never really been into, but whatever, I'm old. You could have a bunch of different tracks routed to each different layer of the V10. It's great. You could still accomplish this with the Model 1. You just need a sound card. And, in years past, that was a bigger financial burden. You had to get something like an X8 or an X16 from UA, or, the big guys like Richie Houghton use like an Antelope Orion over the years. I'm sure now they're using like an RME interface. They're awesome, I'm sure. They're super stable, also expensive. Recently, Arturia came out with the 16 rig, which I have on the desk below, and I love it. It has 10 quarter-inch outputs. So you could run 4 or 5 stem channels into the Model 1 by using the sound card and accomplish that piece of the stem from Ableton in the mixer. The benefit to that, I suppose, is that the filters on the Model 1 are analog. They do sound better. The high pass, low pass filters just sound better. Caveat is the V10 filters work really well too. They're good enough. They're just different. So if you get it into Model 1 with your stems, you can take advantage of their analog filters, the analog distortion / harmonic drive knob. That once you get to that point, the benefits, the parametric EQ is cool. That's still a benefit. The way that you cut frequencies on the Model 1 versus the V10 is super different, special, buttery. I'll show you in a moment. It sounds really good. But that's kind of, to me, that's where I guess we're almost out of the pros and cons for the Model 1 from the pros. Like the other big piece, they both have 2 sends and returns, so you can send return effects back to the mixer. I use external pedals sometimes. Today we're going to use the Chase Bliss Reverb, the 1978, just to show you how that works. One thing on the Model 1 that's kind of neat is that, you get 2 separate knobs for your sends, 1 and 2. The V10 combines them into one knob with 2 buttons to select on off. You can select both and feed your audio, but you can't control them independently. So in the Model 1, you get more fine-tuned control. Send 1, send 2 can have different amounts. Additionally, send A or send 1 on the Model 1, you can push a button and it's pre-fader, which for those of you who aren't familiar, it means that you can have your fader all the way down, no audio coming through a channel, and you can feed some of it to the reverb. So that allows you to do some kind of cool stuff with your original productions. So for phase 1 over here on the workbench, I'm just gonna run a Denon Prime SC6000M media player in the middle of the two mixers. We're gonna do the exact same song, same RCA cables, same connections all the way across. And we're just gonna compare very basic. We'll do some filter sweeps. We'll play with the crossfader on the V10. We'll play with the channel faders. We'll go through some of the sends. We'll do the reverb pre-fader and the normal reverb. And then I think after that, I'll move things around for a minute and we'll do the 16 rig. And I will show you the USB Ableton stems on the V10 for one of my projects versus USB Ableton stems via the 16 rig into the Model 1. And that'll give you an idea of like what an unmastered work in progress can do or can become with each mixer, whether it's the V10 compressor knobs per channel or whether it's the Model 1's distortion drive kind of heat circuit that it has. So yeah, I think that'll cover it. We'll do a few things. We'll move some boxes around and we'll just fiddle and see what happens. And if you have any more questions, comments, thoughts, if you want to see some other combinations of things, hit me up in the comments and maybe we'll inspire the next video. Cool. Okay, let's go. Here we go. V10 first. I put a track in, just a loop that I made so we won't have any copyright issues, and we're just going to demonstrate. So, start with the high pass filter. And I'm going to cover something else. The V10 has digital and RCA line level inputs, which is pretty cool. So, this is the digital signal coming in on channel 3. Pass with some resonance. Now we're going to go to the RCA side. I don't actually think there's a difference in the digital versus the RCA. Not really. So I'm just going to go ahead and lose the digital signal for now. We'll just stick to the RCA so it's apples to apples, right? Okay, so now let's do the low pass. We'll just leave the resonance where it is. Yeah. Now we'll play with the res. Not bad, right? Okay, let's talk about sends. I got one send pedal set up. Get rid of the crossfader. There you go. Here you go. Having a dedicated send and return is cool because you can play with the frequencies. Cut out the lows, for example. You could even filter your return reverb, which is pretty cool. Just some different settings on the pedal. Subtle, I like that. But again, the difference being that there's no pre-fader, so you can't just have reverb going unless the track is audible, which is fine. So the V10 has other goodies, built-in effects. Like here's the internal reverb. Now this is important because you can send this to the master channel, so you don't have to activate another channel to hear it. So if you're low on channels, you can just do that. If you want control over it, you put it on its own channel. You can also map it to a variety of other channels in the mixer, but I like using channel 6 for muscle memory. Another benefit is that you have these beat effects, which can be assigned to any channel or to the whole mixer. So that's the spiral. It gets a little wild. You can isolate low, mid, high frequencies on the master effects, the beat effects. So, like I'll give you just get rid of the low frequencies. Just keep the highs. Get rid of the mids. There's some shimmer. Touchpad's amazing. There's a ping pong delay you can do. I wouldn't say that was the most musical. Like that, so the ping pong delay is pretty rad. If you don't have it, if you don't have your own delay box, well, pretty soon you can make these crazy textures and do weird stuff. So, the combination of effects is insane. That's really the reason to have this mixer over everything. You get like an isolator on the master channel too, which is super cool. So I just crank the low end, take it out, use the high end. So it's kind of like its own mixer channel with just big chunky knobs. It just has a lot of capabilities that are hard to overstate. I mean, it's just pretty rad. Now we're going to go to the Model 1. We made a mistake. I want you to also hear one thing. The compressor knob. That's the compressor on the V10. Doesn't sound bad, right? Okay, that's that. That's our digital compressor. Now we'll do the drive knob on the Model 1. I like it when it's red, but it's not always red. I like it to just pump. Okay, so that's the grit knob. The drive. Without. With. Sounds amazing. Okay, I'm gonna leave the grit off, so we're comparing apples to oranges. Here's the Contour EQ, which works in a different way. So here's a low pass per channel. This is the high pass filter per channel. You can also send it to a master filter. That was low, this is high. I mean, it just sounds good. The sculpting EQ in the middle, you pick a frequency. So right now I'm going to pick the highest frequencies. I'm going to boost them. Now I'm going to cut them. Now we'll go to the lowest frequencies. We'll cut them, boost them. So let's say you take the heat out of your song like I just did, and you just want to boost a little low. You can go down here to like 150. Give it a little throat. You go to 70 or 90. I'm going to boost 100. I'm just going to sweep the whole thing on full boost. Now you get to the middle, 1K. It's a little sharp, but okay. Cut the boost to hair, here's 3.5. 7K. Now we're gonna cut 7K, go backwards. We're at 1K cut. Now we're gonna cut the low. Back to normal. So it's interesting. Here's some drive. I'm gonna cut some low, maybe a quarter up. Maybe that's 150. But I'm also gonna boost 200. I don't know. Like it just gives you a different. Let's cut the lowest and boost 150. There's everything flat. Here's a little cut. So you just DJ with this thing differently, like. Can really just get nasty grit out of it, which is, you know, for some people that's going to be magical. Additionally, the pre-fade. So pre-fader right here. So now I can send it. Now it's hard to get a sense of why that matters when there's just one track playing, but I think you can imagine if you had a bunch of other stuff going on, and then just in the background there was just this tiny little whiff of reverb without ever having like that big transient thing, and you don't have to worry about the frequencies on the channel. So let's go back to like 8. And then you still get, it's very sensitive. Like grit. Wow. So it just gets dirty super fast, right? The grit's a big deal. Keep it subtle, but you just gotta watch it. If you're going for like a nice clean kind of standard reverb, even if you use a nice pretty classic sounding reverb, if you put it through this thing, it gets very dirty pretty quickly, but pretty cool. Okay, so other nuts and bolts. There is a master EQ for each, so here's master EQ on this guy. That's just mids, just highs, just lows, cut lows, just cut mids, just cut highs. Okay. One of my favorite parts is somehow when you pull this contour, this filter off when you're high passing things, I can't explain it, but on the Model 1 it just seems like it punches. I'll show you. I can't explain it. Here's the channel one. It just seems to have a really it just hits really hard. They both have things like split Q. They both have dual Q buses. One of the cool things about the Q bus is that, so for QA, it's one channel per selection. That was actually funny that it let me select more than one. That's weird. That's an error. Anyway, but channel B, Q bus B, you can combine as many things as you'd like. So, and you know, the V10 lets you do all 6 on QA or all 6 on QB, which is a little different. On this guy, the idea is, at least for me, that you could use QB as like your sampling bus. So if you want to sample something on your push or machine, whatever electron, whatever box you have, any kind of sampler, if you want to send audio, you can not only send, you know, one source, one layer, but you could also send just, you know, a couple of other pieces. So if you had, you know, 4 techno loops going or whatever, you could send 1 or 2 of them to be resampled, leaving these 2 playing, resample these 2, get them out of the mix, find your next 2 layers, bring them in without losing whatever you started with. So there's a lot of creative potential there. Also, sometimes when I'm just jamming out my own projects, I accidentally will layer things in a way with the bus that I'm sampling, and that'll kind of become its own thing that almost inspires a new mix or a new version of a track. So that was just one of my loops, and just for the last thing, we're going to play this loop on the V10 with the compressor up a bit, and we're going to play it on the Model 1 with the drive knob up a bit, and we're going to see which one sounds better. For this phase, we have routed an Ableton session into the V10 in stems, and all I did was simply go to the top selectors, which we didn't really talk about earlier, but top selectors, you can go from digital to line level, analog, multi-IO, a variety of things on the V10, including USB-A or USB-B. So you can plug in 2 separate laptops to this guy if you wanted to run 2 separate Ableton sessions side by side, 2 different people playing records. You know, one Serato DJ coming off and another coming on. There's a lot of things you could do with that, but for now, I simply saved my Ableton project as a V10 session, and that just means that I have the routing already decided. Predefined, ready to go. So if I go to the mixer here on the push, you can actually hit the mixer button twice, and you go to input and output. Twist that guy. So that's channel 5, 6. This one's 3, 4. Those are 1 and 2. 7, 8. So I've got all these labeled my own way so that I always kind of know where I'm going. Anyway, cool. So let's start off super light. First, we're going to do no compressor knobs. Now, without any compression at all, I'm going to play the main groove for you. Something's a little loud there. Okay, now we'll do the magic of the V10. So now we've got the compressors cooking. Master high pass. So, right now I have external 1 and 2 connected. We'll go here. One of them is this bad boy. That's the Zen delay. I can cut the frequencies. I can also send this guy to a ping pong, for example. Do a lot of stuff with that. get weird with the Zen delay. Anyway, here's the point, minus the Zen delay. The real benefit here is that you simply plug in your USB cable, set up your computer, grab your controller, and configure the mixer, you're done. Super simple. The other real benefit here is that you get multiple different layers of effects and routing. And I have other live jams that I didn't put on video that I spent more time practicing. And I actually made some really cool stuff happen with the Zen delay and the reverb pedal. So, just means I need to practice more with the instrument, but the possibilities are pretty endless. Small setup, less equipment, works really well. Now we're going to pause, reconfigure everything for the Model 1, and I'll have to plug in the audio interface for that to work, and then you'll see the difference. Okay, so here we go. Model 1, stems from push through a sound card, through the computer with Ableton. Zen delay is on 5, reverb's on 6. The track is going through stems 1 through 4. And we're going to play. Pause for a second. We didn't start with any grit, so we're going to add it, which would be their version of the compressor. Again, different thing, similar idea that for the intents and purposes of our mix. Okay, that's it. Curious to hear what you think. Thanks.